Excellent. Welcome to Coffee with the Mayor. I'm Tim Swadley. I'm the mayor, as you probably know. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions at any time. I'll just go through a few things, give you some updates on what's going on in Stoughton, and then we'll just take it from there. If you haven't seen already, there is road construction. We do have 2 seasons in Wisconsin. Road construction is one of them. So right now on 51, this is a Department of Transportation project, and phase 1 has been completed, and they're working on phase 2. So if you live down near Stoughton Hospital or Venable or Scotland, that area, that side of town, you're under construction. But we've worked really hard to provide some local detours. The Public Works has been meeting weekly with Stoughton Health and with Scotland and then other businesses and people that live down there. And if you're not on the email list, we can get you on the email list. And there's updates that are on the Public Works portion of the website, so feel free to visit that. And then they're in the process of working on that, and I think they're on schedule, and then the next phase will take us all the way down by the fire station. And so it's been busy over there. We're also doing projects up by Sand Hill School right now on Van Buren and a portion of Lincoln as well. So we've worked with the school districts and some of the homeowners there. We've had to have water shut-offs because they're doing some underground work on the water lines. So hopefully it's not too much of an inconvenience, but we'll get through it, and then there'll be more next year. Go ahead.
Is that Quick Trip open?
Yeah, the Quick Trip's open, and as part of the DOT contract, they do have to allow access for all businesses and homes, which, access can be defined a few different ways, as you probably have learned over the years, but they have to allow you to be able to get to your home or business. Quick Trip is open, and I know they're not as busy as they would be normally, just because it's so difficult to get in there. But you can kind of find your way around some of the back roads and get in there. And haven't really had any feedback from them as far as any concerns that they've had, so I'm sure they're used to it. I mean, it happens all the time, and they're typically located on busy streets anyway, so it's very impactful. But, everything's been going good. The weather's been very cooperative, so our projects have been getting done pretty much on time, so we'll continue to move forward on the road construction. And of course, next year, the big section will be on the west side of Stoughton, and we're going through and having conversations with the DOT about the design of the western portion of the construction, which will include the 2 new roundabouts as well. So pretty soon we'll probably have the most roundabouts per capita in Dane County.
Where is that, from where to where, on the west side?
It's going to be from Harrison all the way to Highway B.
Down Main Street?
Yeah, on Main Street at Harrison.
By the tire place, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's a portion of that was done just a few summers ago.
Yeah.
And at that point, we had a lot of communication with the DOT about doing a reconstruction at that point, and what they did instead is they did some repair work. So now they got to tear it up and reconstruct it anyway. I'm coordinating a meeting Monday with our state legislators so they can understand some of our concerns and frustrations. The DOT overall has been very willing to meet us. We meet with them quarterly on these projects. They've had a number of public information meetings, including some here. But sometimes they work in silos in their departments. It's the same issues that I run into with the DNR, and you've heard me kind of complain about them too. But we try to keep the level of communication open with them and let them understand that at the end of the day, we want to minimize the impacts of homeowners and businesses and taxpayers. And as taxpayer, I'm a taxpayer too, it's a bad look when you tear up a road and a few years later tear up the same road again.
Now, the underground is done though. It'll be the surface that's being redone?
It'll be the underground. So last time what they did is there was some cement that's underneath the blacktop. And the cement, what they did is they put new pins in it, that's what kind of holds it together. And we were saying, well, we believe that you should rip up the cement and do the underground. And they're like, well, if you want to do that, you're gonna have to pay for it. And we're like, well, we're not paying for it, it's your road. And you guys should be smart enough to plan ahead. And they do for the most part, but they have different departments. So they'll have a department for reconstruction, a department for repair, a department for safety, a department for access. And sometimes it's like herding cats to get all the departments in the same room and work in a cohesive manner. Hopefully the city doesn't operate like that, but that's how they operate, and that's kind of, state government is so big, and I think that's the reason they do that. But these kind of issues, you know, arise when you operate like that. It's improved, but it's still not where it needs to be.
But the pipes underneath though are permanent. I mean, they don't have to be replaced again, do they?
Yeah, they weren't replaced a few summers ago.
Oh.
All they did was they repaired the concrete and put new asphalt over it. So that's why if you go down Main Street, there's a few sections that were patched because we told them these pipes are gonna leak. And they're like, well, we have this budget for this department, so we're gonna go ahead and do this work. And we're like, can't you just transfer the money to the other department and let them reconstruct it and be done with it? And the answer was no. So those are the things I talk to our state legislators about, because that's not very efficient government, and we shouldn't tolerate that. We wouldn't tolerate that from us, and rightly so. And, you know, we're not perfect either, but we try to do our due diligence and identify these things. So, you know, we do the best we can, but we're one of many communities that they deal with, and sometimes, you know, our concerns don't, you know, get resonated the way we'd like them to, so we talk to our state legislators and go up the food chain. And then this is kind of the detour. Works out pretty good. You go past kind of East Side Park and, you know, come out back behind like the VFW, and Morris Street is open, you know, so you can cross Main Street, so that's working out pretty good for access. And then the section that was done, you know, at N, so now you can go from N east all the way, and that's all new road, so that section is done. So I think, you know, as far as the detour now is shorter than it was in the first phase. You had to take Spring Road either north or south to kind of get around it, or Pleasant Hill Road, I think it was actually, and it worked out pretty good. But, you know, when you have rural roads that have weight limits and aren't very wide, it gets a little bit sketchy, you know, when you have a lot of traffic on them. So I know that the township residents were really concerned, and there's not much we can do. It's not even our project. All we try to do is communicate the best we can of what the official detour will be. And the biggest challenge is the DOT, their detours are only state highways, and it's the semi-drivers that normally would exit on 51 should actually go up to N, and sometimes their GPS or their dispatchers don't have the updates, so then they come down and they get lost, and then people start complaining because the traffic gets backed up. But we'll get through it. A couple projects we're working on. This is out in Business Park North. So across the street from Emmy Roth in that area there, we have the Grossos, Kathy and Ron Grosso, have been building these business incubators. So if you're a business owner, typically they're startup businesses, you can rent out the space, and you can see some of them they all have an office, some of them have one overhead door, some of them have two. So like Lane Lighting, you can see they used to be here, and they outgrew their one unit, and now they're back here in a 2-unit. And there's a total of 6 buildings that are constructed right now, and they're gonna build 2 more back here. And then they offered to buy 2 acres of land to the left on the map, so they could build 2 more bigger ones. ones, and the bigger ones may have 3 or 4 unit garages. So if a company outgrows a 1 or 2 unit, then they can move into the other building just next door and expand their business. And so there's a variety of businesses there, from landscaping to the lighting place. There's construction companies that have their offices there, maybe a few supplies. And so the city council did accept their offer to purchase. There's a lot of work that they need to do. They have to get a site plan approved by the planning commission. They have to provide some financial backing to make sure that they build them at the pace they say they're going to, because it's important for us, because we've taken out debt on the land to purchase it, put in the roads, put in the sewer, water, stormwater, and then the way we get our money back is from the new tax base they create by putting up these buildings. So we have to make sure that when they build them at the value that they promised, and they build them in the timetable they promised, so we can start getting that money back in order to pay off our debt. So that's going on out in the business park, and they're full right now in the current ones they have, so they're looking to build more, which is really exciting because it's startup businesses. One of the other businesses that started out there, not in these buildings, but they have another section out there, they're blue, was Marchand's. So Marchand's had started out there, grew his business, and eventually bought the movie theater. So we try to keep these kind of startup businesses in Stoughton as they grow if we can. And this is one way we do that. This is a picture out by Dunkin' Donuts. This is a car wash that's going out there on the hill there. And this is going to be the Mr. Splash car wash. So they have one out by Menards in Sun Prairie. They converted a car wash that I used to manage down in Janesville on Milton Avenue. So this will be one where it pulls your car through, and then they'll also have a number of vacuums and things there. So I think it's an exterior only, and I imagine they might do some detailing if you want interior work done. I haven't really looked at their menu yet, but this is going up pretty quickly. So that should be done here, probably by the fall. And then this is kind of a picture of where Stoughton Trailers headquarters is. I've talked about this in the past. So their headquarters is right here. That should be completed here in the next couple months, and they'll be moving in there. And then we're focusing on this lot here, which I'll go through some slides. So there's a company called Continental, and they want to build some apartments there that they're going to name the Authentics. So we have 2 lots here behind Sand Hill School and the church, and this is the lot is kind of at a lower grade. So when we were talking to Stoughton Trailers early on, we suggested that's where they put the apartments, because even with the 2nd floor apartment, it's still going to be fairly low, if not lower than the school. So it won't really, it won't be like people are in an apartment peeking in somebody's house. So that's what we suggested. And then there's one other lot here that could be apartments as well. Some of these roads are already being extended. These will eventually be single-family homes here in the yellow. And then as we get into future phases, there'll be some commercial lots here, and then some duplexes up here, and then possibly some other buildings here, which we're not really sure what they're going to be yet. Here's another picture of the headquarters. This would be kind of the front where they enter. And this one here is like coming off of Highway B. So it's kind of a nice view because you'll have the parkland in front of it, you have the building, and then coincidentally you have the water tower in the background, so it's kind of cool. So a lot of windows, a lot of sustainability efforts for energy savings in their buildings. So we're excited for that. There's going to be probably about 150 people working out of the building. Some of them that are currently working in Stoughton, but others that are working in Broadhead and Evansville will be working here. And it's basically their management team, like their finance people, some of their sales people, maybe some of their engineers.
What do you do with their old buildings?
So the old building they're in now serves a couple purposes. It's their headquarters, but it's also in the back area by the kind of railroad tracks there is their research and development area. So they've indicated they still need a place to do R&D. So I think they're gonna hang on to it for now, but eventually, you know, if they can move that to another site, we'd like to redevelop that area down there. It's not too far from the river and everything else we have going on down there. But for now, I think they want to continue to operate out of both buildings. This is kind of an overhead of the layout of what the apartments will look like. So you can see there's multiple buildings. There's a similar project like this in Cottage Grove. When you come in on Cottage Grove on the right hand side, you can see it's very similar to that. And they try to lay it out where it's kind of almost its own little neighborhood. So you have multiple buildings, 312 units they're projecting right now on the 15 acres, 12 buildings. And our density, we like it to be between 15 and 35, so they're kind of right in there, amount of units per acre. And they'll be at the Plan Commission Monday night to get their site approved. They were there last month, and there were some things we wanted them to work on. One of the things when you have a development is we have requirements for how much green space and landscape space that you have to dedicate. And they were falling a little bit short of those benchmarks. Usually it's like 50%. And so we worked with them to come up with some different ideas on how they might be able to achieve that. So we think they will be able to, and then we can hopefully move forward and get that approved.
And up above, is that the school?
Yes.
Okay.
You have the school, and then the church would be over
Yeah.
here. And then eventually, you know, our trail system, I think it's gonna come up this way, or is it this, maybe it's this way. The trail system will connect all the way over to Virgin Lake, and it'll come out by the church there, get you to Highway B, which eventually will get you to Williams Drive, which will get you all the way to Madison someday, hopefully in the next 5 or 10 years.
I think they've already cut that hill way down
Yeah,
behind that, yeah?
yeah, so they're trying to get some of the utility work done in anticipation of this construction here. And I don't know if they're gonna start this in the fall or in the spring, but they're making pretty good progress. They've been really good to work with. And then this shows some of the amenities. It's probably hard to see from there, but they wanna have like a clubhouse, which is over here. They have a pet playground. They have what they're calling a car care center, so, and then the trail system. So, and then you can see there's a swimming pool. So they try to have some amenities for the people that want to live there. They spend a little bit more on the amenities than they do on other things such as appliances. From what I understand, they don't put in like stainless steel appliances or granite countertops. Instead, they use quartz or whatever, and then they do just regular colored appliances because they cost less. But that allows them to have lower rents as well as provide these other amenities for the people that live there, which many of the apartment complexes don't do that. Although I was at the 51 yesterday, that's the one out where they just finished the second building near this area here. And on their second building, they actually put in some offices. So if the people that live there work at home, they can go in and rent out an office space right in their apartment complex, which is kind of an interesting idea. And then they have like a game room and some other things. So we're starting to see that with the apartment units, they're trying to create more amenities for the people that live there. So it helps them market the property, and it keeps their tenants happy, and provides more opportunities for people. And this is kind of another overhead, so you can see the school and the church in the background. But you can see there's a fair amount of density there. And then we're also working with Stoughton trailers, you know, for the extension to this road that'll connect all the way up to B. So we're working with Dane County for that access there. So hopefully we can at least get that access completed by the time the apartments get built. It usually takes about a year to build them.
So what are the smaller buildings between the apartment
This is the clubhouse and the
No,
pool.
go down to the right, the one in the very end.
They're
Yeah, and up to that little building right
Oh,
above,
this
yeah,
one?
right. There's a couple of them.
I don't know if that's.
Like three
car
or
center, maybe that's,
See, there's like 3 of them there.
maybe that's that car service, huh?
Yeah, it must be yeah, you see, I think they're carports.
Okay.
I think that's what that is. But that's a good question. I'll have to get some clarification on that.
And the park is not, is there a park area too that,
The park will be part of so it's right here, and then this is all parkland here.
oh,
So they'll basically use that, and the trail system will get them to the main park there. And the way it works then is based on the number of units, whether they're multifamily, duplexes, or residential, commercial doesn't count. Based on the number of units, we have a formula that we use that determines how much parkland needs to be dedicated. In this case, Stoughton Trailers work with us, they're actually dedicating more parkland than they're required to, but normally we would use that formula to determine how much parkland, as well as when they pull a building permit, they have to pay what we call an impact fee, and that fee goes to help pay for the amenities in the park. So if we put up a shelter, a bathroom, a playground, whatever, those impact fees pay for those items in the park. So one of my goals when I became mayor was when we build a new park, the impact fee should cover the cost of designing and constructing the amenities in the park. In the past, what happened is they collected all the money and threw it in one pot, and then oftentimes they ran out of money because they weren't really managing it, and then they were borrowing money for a new park, and that should never happen. So what we've done in the finance department is for each park, we have its own account, so we can keep track of all the money that's coming in when they pull the building permit for the impact fees, and how much is going out to pay for the engineering or the amenities that we actually put in the park. And once the park's completed, that balance should be zero or close to it. And then if there's money left over, then we have a policy that says, okay, it needs to go to the next nearest park or whatever. So we have some criteria. So if there is money left over, sometimes when you build like an infill project, there's no parkland available because it's, it's in an area where the park was already built and there was a couple lots left over. So when we collect those fees, we typically use that, to offset any cost overruns or any new amenities that we want to put in the park. So we're trying to keep our borrowing down in the new parks, especially because the cost of playground equipment is skyrocketed. And then we also updated our impact fee formula. So every year the formula goes up based on the cost of living increase. So we don't get behind, because that's what happened. We got behind because nobody updated the formula, and next thing you know, we're budgeting, $300,000 for a shelter, and it costs us $600,000. And we didn't have $600,000 collected, so then we borrow the difference. Well, we can't manage like that. Back in the day, it wasn't as much of an issue because the stuff didn't cost as much, or oftentimes, volunteers would build the shelters, for example. But what we found is many times when they were built, they weren't built according to ADA standards and things like that, and we're trying to improve that as well because we want to have everyone to be accessible to our park and trail systems. No, that was a lot.
I have a question.
Sure.
Wasn't there a point at one time where thought was to consolidate the soccer facilities all over into one area? And didn't they discuss that for this?
We did. We're hoping to do that up in this area here. So what we've encouraged Stoughton Trailers to do is to get that all graded out and get that grass seed planted, because it takes 2 years for the grass to really take. And we would like to have that be like the soccer complex.
What
Because
about
right now,
parking for that?
yeah, there's going to be parking in the park. Well, it's not designed yet. I anticipate it'll be up here off the trailer way here. There'll probably be a parking There may or may not be street parking. I don't know if that's been determined yet. But we're in the process of, we just selected the firm to do the park master plan. So the master plan is basically a process that they go through to determine what should be in the park. A lot of that's based on public input, so they do surveys, they do focus groups, try to get input. And then they'll do the design of the park, and then we'll budget it out, see if the numbers come out, and then we'll build it. But the plan is to build the soccer fields up there, which doesn't cost a lot of money to build, plant grass. And then we do have a shortage of soccer fields, and even some of the soccer teams are using the fields like out in the townships, which helps. But what happens is on these fields, especially when it rains, but even when it's dry, you only want to play so many games on a field because the grass gets all flattened out, and it's not healthy for the turf, and it gets slippery, and you create injuries if it's not maintained well. So we'd like to have enough green space where we're in a position where we can rotate fields so they recover quicker. Same thing with our baseball fields too. Oftentimes, everyone wants to play on this diamond. Well, that's great, but if you play over 80 games, at Norris Park, for example, it takes this toll on the grass, and then it takes a year to recover. So on that one, we're actually working with the school district to do a rotation. So, 1 year, all the games might be at Norris Park, and then the next year, some of the games might be at the high school, for example. So both of our fields have time to recover. Yes, sir.
No, I'm not sure. Your question, were you thinking about a big complex where people come from other towns to have?
No,
tournaments?
just our own. We have a lot of soccer players in this.
Yeah, no, okay, because you were talking about consolidating, so.
I meant the various fields into a large complex.
Yeah, what we'd like to do is have 4 of them here. So right now we have a couple out at Racetrack, we have one at Virgin Lake, we have one at Nordic Ridge, and we still might maintain them, but if they want to have a tournament, it would be here. Maybe they would use those other ones for practices, or they would use them for maybe the first round of the tournament, and then once some teams might be eliminated from the tournament, then they can move them all to one site.
The tournaments, though, that's why I wanted to clarify your question. They need like 12 fields. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Then they come from all over. They'll come from as far as Wausau and all over.
Sure, and it's the same thing with baseball too.
Yeah.
So collectively, I don't know if we'll have 12, but we'll be getting up there, and we have some other opportunities at Racetrack for some land that we purchased. So, this will be all part of the master plan, and where that'll come out, and one of the stakeholder groups during the public information sessions will be the Soccer Association. In fact, our assistant finance director is the treasurer for the Soccer Association, so I know she's watching very closely. So that is the plan, is to have some, it's not only soccer, it could be flag football, it could be lacrosse, it could be ultimate frisbee, just anything that needs a large grass space. So we want to have the flexibility there.
I have one more question,
Sure.
and that's for the bicycle trails. I got a goal for the city here that I'd like to see the parks, the residential area, and the schools all connected with a bicycle trail. Now, is there a bicycle trail going through? It's going to go to the school up there?
Yeah, it'll go basically from Virgin Lake, it'll go all the way up across here, up to the school, and then probably somehow get out to Highway B, and then eventually.
Let's get to the school.
Yeah, and we want to get to Williams, because that's where the Lower Yahara Trail is coming from the McFarland towards Stoughton. So yeah, that's one of our goals, is the connectability of our trail system to our parks too. One of the challenges is that several years ago, there was a change in state law. So we used to be able to purchase parkland through eminent domain. We can't do that anymore because people complained that they didn't want a trail in their backyard, basically, so they changed the law. So we do have segments that we can't make a connection. So it might end here and then pick up 2 houses down or whatever. An example of that is out behind Scotland there. There's a couple of homeowners that we've offered them money for the land, but they don't want to give up the land between their house and the river, which I understand. People are just gonna cut through their yard anyway. But, you know, so we do, that is one of our goals as well. And we do have a comprehensive outdoor recreation plan that we update every 5 years that highlights that. And then we also have park design guidelines. So when we do new parks, not only the park and trail system, but accessibility from the road, you know, maintaining natural features like wetlands and woods and things like that. Those are all in the park design guidelines. So we send those on to the developers so they understand kind of going into it what the rules of engagement are going to be. Let's see.
How many units are there in that,
312.
and how many buildings, like 21 was there? 12 buildings,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
But, so this one here is out by Kettle Park West, kind of by Walmart. So if you were to visual this, and I don't have the whole thing, the pond is right here. This is Highway 138 here. So the pond is here. And currently, D.R. Horton, if you've been out behind Kettle Park Senior Living, they're starting to build these units that I've showed you here in the past. And we've been working with the developer out there because right now we have a deed restriction on these lots up here. And the deed restriction was based on when we first did the development, the only way in here for emergency management was Jackson Street. So we worked with the developer and said, well, at some point, we want to be able to come out 138 with a fire or EMS vehicle and go up this road and have it connect for emergency management. Well, since then, with the development to the north, we have 2 additional access points. We have the one on Rutland Dunn Town Line Road, where the apartments are on the right side. And then we have another one at Roby that goes past Deer Point across the street. Is that Roby? Across the street, you know, from Deeks, across the street, down past Stoughton Lumber. So we actually have 3 access points in this development now. So we don't believe we need to connect this to 138 anymore. And it would be fairly expensive to do this anyway because there's a lot of terrain issues. So we're working a deal right now with the developers where the city would acquire this land here, not do the road, they just put like a cul-de-sac here. And we get this land here and then we can extend our trail here and this would be part of the parkland. So we talked about that Tuesday night at the city council meeting. We made a proposal to the developers, we're hoping they accept it. They need to dedicate some of this land to us anyway because they need some more parkland based on that formula for some apartments they're building behind the True Hotel. And then we would just buy the leftover 3 acres and then we would be able to help preserve the wetland and the grasses that surround it and put in a trail system.
What kind of price are they at? What kind of an offer would you make to buy those 2 lots approximately?
Well, they wanted 80,000 an acre,
Ooh.
and that's not what we offered them.
Okay.
So
They couldn't use it really anyway for building, could they? Develop
they
it?
thought they could, but it would be extremely challenging because they'd have to put a lot of fill there, and they would still have to build the road, you know, to a certain point anyway,
Oh, boy.
down to here. We don't know if they'd be able to make any money by doing that, so that's why we entered into an agreement. And then there's a property owner over here that did not want a road looking out their picture window toward the pond, so so we worked out a deal and keep our fingers crossed, I'll be able to release the price that we ultimately pay next month.
Should be considerably less.
Yeah, I'll say it's probably gonna be half of that.
Quick question. The eminent domain that applies to individuals that we talked about earlier, does that apply to corporations too? Can you eminent domain something that's owned by a corporation?
I believe we can. The only time we've done eminent domain since I've been mayor is when we built our new public works garage. And we did that because there was a farmhouse out there and we really needed that land for the parking lot. And it's a process that you go through, and basically what happens is that the attorneys do all the work for us, but they submit paperwork saying, you know, city's gonna take the land through eminent domain. The city and the property owner each does an appraisal, and then we have to typically pay a location fee, and oftentimes we'll end up paying more than we would if we could just buy it outright, but if we don't have a willing seller, that's the only way you can go through it.
Thank you, that answers my question.
Okay.
Because if there are gonna be stinkers about the price, you could throw that at them.
Yeah, and we thought about, and we had conversations about doing an appraisal. That's another way we could get to the number.
Yeah.
And the city council chose not to. There's a cost to do that
Yep.
too.
Thank you.
And basically, we're offering what they paid for the land to begin with.
Thank you.
Okay. They've owned that land for about 10 years. This is down by the river. So the river's right here, Van Park is over here across the river. So we're working with Alexander and Company, and this is the basic layout. So right now, the main focus is on phase 1, but they did, just the other night, Wednesday night, this was in the redevelopment authority packet. So basically, for phase 2, it's almost identical. They just took this and turned it to fit here. So that's what they're looking at doing down there. And I want to say each phase has, I'm going to say 100, 110 or 120 units maybe, 120 I think it is. And this is a basic layout. There's still a fair amount of approval that needs to be done. The first thing we have to do is really establish a certified survey map which identifies where the lot lines are going to be. Because right now we have, if you were to look on it online, you would see there's multiple lots down there from all the different property owners that owned it in the past. And what we want to do is we want to simplify that, and we're going to get it down to 3. So we'll have one for this area, one for this area, and then one for the area where the powerhouse is, the road will be, the stormwater pond will be, and whatever green space is going to be left over. So the planning commission will ultimately make that recommendation. And then eventually, the powerhouse might become a 4th lot. The goal is to keep it under 5. If you get up to 5 lots, now it's considered a subdivision, and there's a whole lot of other rules that come into play that I don't even know what they all are, but I've been told it's not worth the trouble if you can avoid it, so that's what we're doing. So we're working on that. We also received a request for financial assistance, so we use tax incremental financing. And as I described earlier with the Grossos, with the business incubators, the city has acquired a lot of debt over the years down there to purchase buildings, demolish buildings. There's going to be the debt acquired for cleanup of contamination that's down there, so we've been working, testing the soil. There'll be the road that needs to be put in, the stormwater that is put in, and then the idea is when these buildings are built, all the property taxes that we collect for those buildings will pay off that debt. And hopefully at the end of the life of the TIF district, the cash flows. So they've requested some assistance. This area here, we're probably about $2 million in the hole right now. By the time we get everything else done, it'll probably be closer to 3, might even be more. And in order for them to cash flow it, they've requested, I think it's $2 to $3 million. More than likely what's going to happen is the area up by Walmart, that tax incremental financing district has exceeded expectations. So we'll probably take that and donate money from those property taxes to help offset this one so we can get this project done. So the finance department works with our financial consultants in order to put those financial projections together, and they do their magic, and probably at the next finance committee meeting, we're gonna have a proposal to have our financial consultants crunch those numbers. So this is kind of the layout. This is kind of what the first phase will look from the overhead, so you can kind of see the river, you can see all the trails that we're gonna put in there. You know, the one trail, we're still working with the DNR to go under the bridge here, but that's included in there. And that's kind of what it's gonna look, and then the buildings will look something like this. So they're trying to incorporate some Scandinavian design, which is consistent with a lot of the homes that are in the area, and even things that are across the street here and throughout Stoughton. So you have these angled rooftops, you have different color coordinations. Kind of the big thing now is the roof lines, they like to stagger them to give it a little bit more character. So that's kind of one view of it. Here's another one. You know, we're working with them on things like patios and retention walls and that on their site plan. So the planning commission has been having conversations with them. So that's basically what we're looking at down there. We're hoping that if everything comes together, they'll start in the spring. They also have, they're applying for money through, for WINA from the state of Wisconsin, so they can get a 4% tax credit if they make a certain percentage of their units that are subsidized in both buildings. So what's neat about what they're gonna do is they're gonna have some people paying full rent out of their pocket in the same buildings as other people that are gonna be paying their portion of the rent, plus their subsidized portion that they get from the state. So you'll really have integrated housing there, instead of having like one building being all market rate and the next one be subsidized, and then there's stigmas associated with that. So that's something that has changed. Originally there was gonna be two builders, one for the market rate, one for the subsidized. Now we're gonna have one builder do the whole site. So they're gonna mix and match people in the same building, which we think makes stronger neighborhoods. So we're excited about that. Yes.
Go ahead.
No,
I was wondering where they're all gonna park. Is it gonna be underground?
Some of it will be, but it's hard to see. So some of the underground will be kind of in these units here, because the grading, if you've been down there, it's really sloped. So as we get up toward, what is that, Jefferson, or whatever that street is there, the grading is such that we can dig there without hitting the water table. You start getting down closer to the river, and, you know, the water is right there. It practically bubbles up there above surface there. So there'll be some underground, and then in these units up here, and probably up here on the phase 2, and then the rest of them here. And we do have parking requirements in our ordinances. You have to have a certain number of parking spots, percentage-wise, based on the number of units, so they'll meet that. And then we're still having some discussion, and this would be like extra parking here for the public. And then possibly some street parking here on 6th Street. That was one of the things that came up at the meeting the other night. Ultimately, that'll be a public works decision on whether or not we'll have parking on 6th Street. There's a suggestion that maybe we should only have it on one side, so we can have a better sidewalk or off-road trail going from this development all the way up by the gazebo. So those type of details haven't been fully determined yet, but those are all conversations that are happening.
I was wondering if I did the math right, that'd be, you said 120 per unit, that's 480 families or whatever, people, bedrooms in here. So is there some playgrounds in there too for them, other than your park, that park?
Yeah, so one of the other things that did come up in the conversation was that they have to meet the green space requirements that I mentioned earlier here as well. It's usually 50%. We're gonna allow some flexibility here because we do have a park here. We're looking at maybe 36%, which they say they can meet. A lot of that will be determined in the engineering exactly where that might be, and then the Park and Rec Committee will take a look at doing a kind of a mini master plan there. They might even do it in-house because it's not gonna be a huge area, maybe an acre or two at the most. So some of it could be here, or some of it could be around the pond, depending on the exact size and shape. This is really a placeholder more than anything now. And then there's some opportunity down here as well. And one of the things they talked about for the certified survey map is exactly, you know, if they can push up some of these lines to create more green space for park stuff. I know on the other side of the bridge, over in this area here of Man Park, they're talking about putting a shelter and maybe some playgrounds and a bathroom. That's not fully determined yet. So we do want to kind of have everything flow together and not duplicate. We don't want to have playground equipment here and here. That would really make sense. So we have to flush all that out yet. We're just not at that point yet, but there will be some amenities. Maybe it's like a gazebo shelter or
Well, the
something like that.
developer's gotta put something in, or they won't be able to rent the places, you know, I mean, some
Right.
place will even put a swimming pool in.
Yeah, and they're trying to have amenities, you know, like, you know, grilling stations and areas where pets can go. I mean, that's a big thing right now. It seems everybody but me has a pet. The reason I don't have a pet is I can barely take care of myself, so I can't put that on the pet, so. So they are trying to do amenities because it's gonna get really competitive in the apartment world right now because they're building them everywhere and, you know, people are gonna move into places that meet their needs. And I think we're starting to see that in the new designs.
What's the timetable on that road, that path on the south side of the river? Now, are they gonna
Okay.
dig it all up
Yes.
soon, or?
We'll get into that next. You're talking about this path?
Yeah, it kinda goes, dead
That's-
ends.
it's-
No, I thought
so-
It's the north
No,
side,
no, on the
It's
south
south
side,
side.
south side of the river.
the other side,
Well,
Man
both
Park.
This side?
Yeah, by the Van Park
Oh,
there.
both of them.
Next to the new parking lot on
Oh.
Van Park.
Well, you know, that's a good question. So I'll get to it here.
Okay, no, that's
So
okay.
we had another meeting with the with the DNR, I don't know, a couple days ago, must have been Wednesday. And we've been, as I've shared with you in the past, we're working on 3 permits down here. One for a deflector, this one's already done. One for the deflector, one for this miscellaneous dam, and then one for this boulder structure. And this one here, this trail here that goes under the bridge is approved, but it's contingent on all these other ones. And we're trying to get to a public hearing with the DNR. And we got a little spat with them the other day because they are requesting information that is not required by their codes. And we're like, well, if it's not required, we should be able to move ahead and get the public hearing scheduled. Well, we want the information, but it's not required, but we want it. It's like, well, is it required or not? So this turned into I got a little heated in the discussion because, you know, I'm tired of them delaying the project over this kind of stuff. It's like, if it's required, show me in the code where it's required and we'll provide it. If it's not required, make your decision and let's go. So I'm not really sure what the follow-up of that's gonna be. Our attorney's working on that. But hopefully we'll get to a decision point on that and get the public hearing scheduled so we can get that done. Because once we get these permitted, we can start constructing that trail. We were hoping to do that this fall or even into the winter because we still have additional work to do at Man Park. So at Man Park, this is all done. The only thing that's left is this corner up here and then this trail system. So we have to take out the road and put in the trail. And we wanted to do those work in the river at the same time we do the trail. And we actually have grant money that is helping to offset that, which is at risk because they're not acting on the permits. So that's kind of what our conversation was about the other day. So I think we have a follow-up meeting. I don't know if I'll be invited to that one. But I'm sure that our people can at least get to a conclusion. And they'll have our engineer on the call. He's the one that has the information.
Well, I understand why the delay.
Yeah, and so my response to them is if you want the information, change your code.
Yeah,
That's your job. That's what we would do. If we expect a homeowner to do something, we have to change our ordinance. That's your job, change your ordinance. Now, I'm sure it's a little bit more challenging than that, because I think when they change the codes, they might need to be approved by the legislator or some committee or whatever, but that's what we elect them to do your job. So, the secretary for the region was on the call, and I'm sure she probably heard me loud and clear more than once.
So I understand they canceled the tractor pull this year.
Yeah.
What's gonna change next year if they didn't do it that they couldn't this year?
Well, I guess, I don't know all the details behind the decision to do that, so, I've heard a few things, and one of the things we think they can do, and hopefully we can work with them, is try to eliminate some of the congestion down there. So, we were talking earlier, so one of the things they could do is they could try to restrict how far people can go. So for example, if they were to put a barricade here and staff it, then people that come in, this is where the ADA parking was during the fair, and then we have Troll Beach. So if they get to this point here, and they're not dropping off animals in the barn, there's no reason for them to go back there. Because what's happening is people are driving back there and they're parking all over the place, and it doesn't leave enough area for tractors or anything else to be parked there. This area here will be completed, which will create a little bit more space there.
Is there some kind of a shelter or building in that corner?
Yeah,
upper
right
left?
here, we're talking about a shelter and or a restroom,
Okay.
right there. And we're in the process of pricing that out right now. I have something on my desk. So the other thing is so the midway, they take up a tremendous amount of space. I think there might be some opportunity there for some of the vehicles, and some of them they do park off-site, but I think there's other opportunities to park more of them off-site and then shuttle people back and forth. But that's going to be up to the fair to determine, because there's just a lot of vehicles and trailers and semis and RVs and everything down there that may or may not need to be there, and I don't fully understand what all the purpose of those items are down there. A lot of them, they're just dropping off on, say, Saturday, and they're picking it up and taking it out of here on Sunday night. Do those items need to sit there all week when there's, it's one thing if somebody needs to get in their truck and get some tools or whatever. It's another thing if it's there just because it's convenient to be parked there.
But like their campers, don't they pull power off the diesel, the generators that they bring in?
Yeah, they do bring in generators, so some of the stuff has to be there, but there's some things that maybe don't have to be there, and they do park some of that off-site. You probably saw the semis parked down there, but it seems like they had, according to my granddaughter, they had more rides this year than last year. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but, we'll work with them. We also have a new person that was in charge of the Midway this year, so I'm sure they'll come up with some efficiencies that might create more space for the tractor pull. They may end up doing more standalone events. So the weeks leading up to the fair, they had a couple different shows down in the barns. They could feasibly just have a tractor pull instead of doing it as part of the fair. Just have it one day, just the tractor pull, because that'll draw large people. Then they can utilize the parking lot for that event. So there's all sorts of ideas that are going around, but ultimately it's going to be up to the fair board. We're more than happy to provide them any feedback or input that we can. Many of us spend a lot of time down there observing and taking notes, and we can tell though one thing that happened for sure is, so when we redid all of this, this whole site was a dump, literally a dump. So we did a lot of soil compacting, we brought in a lot of gravel, we put in drainage tiles, and if you were down there, this area here, even though it rained pretty good at times, was fairly dry. Where it was really muddy was around the barns, and we haven't done any work there yet. Someday, when they get new barns, we will be probably doing some work there as well. It's a little bit wet down here, but it could have been a lot worse. But we were overall pretty pleased with the way all that worked for drainage.
I thought those were for cars to park, like during these events, but they had all these trailers in there?
Yeah. So we're hoping that some of those trailers, they can take off-site, but I don't know enough about the operation to know whether or not that's feasible. They have to figure that out. And I think with 1 year under their belt with the new setup, I think they'll figure it out,
Yeah.
you know?
They got, I don't know who's gonna pay for all the grass that they ruined, but
They have to restore that as
Wow.
part of their agreement
they
with the
park
city.
everywhere.
Yeah, they do. And we think that there's opportunity there, and we're willing to work with them on that. And part of the challenge too is, normally a lot of the vehicles, they do park down here where we dump the snow in the winter, but the DOT is doing this road here, so their vehicles are parked there. So that's why you saw them parked over by the powerhouse. But if we develop those apartments, they're not gonna be able to park there next year, or maybe the year after, depending on what the timing of that. So we do need to look at opportunities, and we may, park some of the vehicles on our land, or maybe we can work out something with the business or the schools. Those are all conversations that we wanna have. But yeah, but overall, I think it worked out. I was down there, but, my mindset's a little different. Even though I did live in the rural for many years, I'm still primarily think like the city folk. And the people that are running the fair, they live on farms. It's a different philosophy, so we try to work with them.
Yeah, back to the question on extending those trails. You got west of 4th Street, there's some, but what about going east all the way up to say Ganza School or something on either the north side or the south side? It looks like they kind of both dead end.
Yeah, so we do want to extend right here. It ends. The Stoughton Trailers owns a building right here. And we've talked to them, and they basically said, well, someday we're gonna sell the building, and when we do, you guys can work out a deal with the new owner. But we might revisit that, because that was said, even before they started their corporate headquarters, and they're still using that building, whereas at one point it was for sale. And now it's not. And that gets you over toward, Olmsted, basically.
There's a road that dead ends down there, connect to that.
Yeah, those are all possibilities. We do have kind of a trail system network on our website, and I know that we have mapping people, we have interns right now that are working not only where our trails go, but how they might connect with like county trails. So that's the other thing, is we want it all to work together. But these are like multi-year and even decade discussions that have to occur, because we can't just simply acquire the property like we were used to be able to.
Yeah.
Unless it changes back, and we lobby for that, but, it's, politically, it's kind of a hot potato, because especially if you live on a lake and you have $1 million house, do you really want a trail going through your backyard? Probably not. You're probably gonna lobby your state legislators not to change that law. If you're like me and I'm trying to provide services for our residents, I'm gonna lobby, but I don't have as much money as the guy in the $1 million house, so they're probably gonna listen to him and not me.
We got some other connections further east. There's that by the railroad tracks. There's some.
Yeah.
If you go have room alongside the road, that'll
Sure.
get you east further. You can connect it to this, and then Stone Trail Parks in that land the city owns, kind of in the valley between behind the houses over there too, which is over towards the school.
Yeah, so we'll continue to work on that. We chip away at it the best we can. The best time to do it is during construction, because that's when we can leverage the property owners if it's not our property, and say, well, as long as we're doing this, we want, to.
Well, the answer is it's gonna be a long time.
It is. It is.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we're still working, so the chamber is at City Hall, which I'll talk about a little bit. One of the wagons is in the building at the fair. I don't know if you were down there, you might have seen that. And then some of the other artifacts that were in the depot are down there right now. So that was pretty cool. There was people gathered around it the day I was down there looking at it. Stuff on the water. One thing I wanted to share is that Tony has been really updating some progress on our website, so he's put together some videos that you can go on our Parks website and click on and get updates on Man Park, for example. And then other things that we're doing is we brought the Around the Clock back. I don't know if anybody ever reads that. It's a digital newsletter from our departments. It's usually on our social media or our website, and some of the departments will put their links on their social media as well. So that's like a quarterly update of what's going on around town. And then a lot of our meetings are recorded on WSTO, including these meetings, as well as City Council, Plan Commission, Finance Commission, some of those other ones.
Who's the guy, that picture on the right?
I don't know, that's when I was younger and wiser, right? And then gazebo music is still going on for, another month or so.
Sorry to interrupt.
Right. And if you haven't already, we are working on our comprehensive plan, so we received over 500 surveys so far. You can go online to www.planstoughton.com to take the survey. It doesn't take very long. And you can put comments in there like you want to see these trails connected or anything else that you like to see. Yeah, so that's good. I mean, we need that data, so when we're making decisions, we know what you value the most. So I think they're going to be here maybe next month to give an update, or the month after. The team that's working on that, they weren't available today, so they sent these slides with me. And it looks like they are having a pop-up event on July 18th. Becker's office is right up here, up by Lucas Pizza. So you can stop in there and talk to them, and they can give you some more information. And then these are some of the other things that are going on. They're going to be at coffee break, and they're going to be at gazebo music. So they're trying to get a variety of input from different stakeholders in the community, so it's not all the same people, it's a variety of people. And then, as I mentioned, the chamber is in City Hall. If you need anything there, they're operating in the same hours as City Hall. We did change our hours at City Hall, so we're now officially open Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4, and we're open 8 to noon on Friday. That'll be flexed during the elections and things like that. And some of our employees will still be working late on Friday, but we won't be, the door will be locked. But most of the information you need nowadays is on our website. You can download it or fill out the forms there, or you can make an appointment. If you can't make it, before noon on a Friday, you might be able to make an appointment if it's something urgent. But we wanted you to be aware of that. But things went well with the chamber. They're having a sale today, so if you're looking for some items, they're going to be down at the depot. Not only the chamber, but the Historical Society has some items that are left over. If you're interested in any of that, it might be worth going through. And I was there yesterday, and there's some pretty cool stuff there yet. And then next week, the rest of the items that are in there from the Historical Society is like a sled, a couple wagons, some other artifacts. Will be moved into storage. Work has already begun on the actual depot building. The prospective owners have been down there doing some preliminary work, and they have some contractors lined up. There's going to be a huge investment put into that building. Money that, as a mayor, I would have had a hard time justifying having the taxpayers pay for it. That's one of the reasons I wanted to sell the building, because it was just getting really expensive to maintain. Speaking of expensive to maintain, we had a firm come through and do some analysis on all of our buildings, roofs, windows, air conditioners. Yeah, really expensive, especially the Opera House. So they're down there again, talking about window options at the Opera House. As you can imagine, on a historic building, those windows are going to be super expensive to replace. Some of them go back to like 1982, and I never knew this, but windows actually have a date stamped into the window frame. So when the guy came out, they were able to identify, which years those windows were put in, and some of them were from the 80s and the 90s, and You know, you usually get 30 or 40 years out of a window if you're lucky. So those are, you know, they're pushing it. So we're putting together a plan to, you know, maintain our buildings, especially the historic ones, because it won't get any cheaper if we defer the maintenance, the brickwork as well, the tuck pointing and all that. Some new things that are going on, as I mentioned, I was at the 51 apartments yesterday out by Stoughton Trailers. So they had the ribbon cutting. That's their second building. There's 79 units in that building. They've already have 50 applicants. So it's going to fill up pretty quickly. So I'm hoping they build another one. I mean, there's definitely a need for it, as well as all the single-family homes that are going up. Studio 12 is out in the strip mall, kind of behind Sunrise, over by Dollar General. That's opened in that unit now. The Nail Empire just opened up in Autumn Pearl. So if you're looking for a place to get your nails done, you can go there. And then Fahrenheit 364 across from the Opera House, that was sold. It's now the old Firehouse Lounge. So they've done some updating there. So it's got kind of a 1920s, you know, the Roaring 20s theme going on there. So it's kind of interesting. And that's all I had. Did you have anything?
One of my friends asked me to ask you how much longer we're going to be looking at a boarded up built frontage on Main Street, right next to Diaconus. That building is, I think
Yep.
it was being worked on, but.
Yep, they're in there working every day. There's two guys that bought the building, and they're remodeling the inside. They boarded up the front just because they didn't want all the dust and stuff going out onto the sidewalk, and, you know, and I think they might have took out the window. They're gonna be doing some work there. So they're working on the inside out right now. I don't have a timetable. I'm hoping by the end of the year.
Do they have a building permit that expires at a certain time?
I don't know if it expires. They do have a building permit, and we communicate with them fairly often and monitor their progress, especially on the outside when they're doing, because some of that was historic preservation. But we've, you know, and they're right, the alleyway's right across from City Hall, so I can see them back there doing some stuff and hauling stuff.
They are
in and out
working
there.
then.
Oh, yeah,
That was
they're
the
working on
question.
it. But they're trying to do as much as they can themselves, because it's super expensive
Yeah.
right now to do anything. So, yeah, it's taken them a while, but I think it's gonna be really nice when it's done.
And the
What are they
old
gonna be?
bookstore is still.
I haven't heard
caged.
anything from the
That's-
bookstore.
That is
Yeah.
really an eyesore.
Yeah, no, I agree, but it's only so much we can do.
So that is owned by somebody in Stoughton?
The bookstore?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I
The
think.
son?
The son, and I think maybe the mother might still be involved somehow, but I've never met her. But I've met the son a few times, but he travels quite often for work, so he works on that, you know, in between things. So I don't know if he has a timetable, but, yeah.
At one point, I saw there was a building permit on the front of the building,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
that's
he was-
expired.
Yeah, he was doing, you know, the painting on the outside of the building, and I'm not really sure what his long-term plan is.
Any progress on that bad section by the old cinema?
I've talked to them. They are looking at not only doing that, but doing some interior renovation, which will be coordinated with that. So if you've ever been in there, they have like more bathrooms in that building than I've ever seen anywhere. I swear, it's like a baseball stadium in there. So they don't need all the restrooms that are in there, and they think they can make that useful space, and they're located like right behind that window. So they're trying to put together a plan where they can renovate and do those at the same time, but I don't have a timetable for it, but I did have conversations with them.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because they ultimately, I think, would potentially put in a second entrance there as well as part of that. So they're trying to figure out, okay, just take that out. How can we put in, you know, a new doorway, maybe more windows? What do we do with the brickwork? The wood framing obviously should just be taken out. So, yeah, they've had some contractors down there too, but once again, I don't have a timetable. but I'll keep on them.
Okay.
When are they gonna have the water park, the white water park done? I wanna be the first person to go down in an inner tube and,
That's all part of the conversations with the DNR, so once
That's
we
what I thought,
get
too.
this downstream stuff resolved and hopefully approved, then we can work on the upstream, which, you know, there's gonna be a lot of conversation about that,
Yeah.
because that one, the rules of engagement are a little different, we have to change the water level order. So we have to make a case, and we think we can make a good case that it's in the public interest to do so, because it's good for the river, it's good for fishing, we'll have a better trail system, and it will have more recreational use. There's gonna be an argument made by folks that are saying the water level's gonna drop, and it's gonna be adversely affect their properties. You know, at the end of the day, the DNR is gonna have to make a determination. And I think that's one of the reasons why they've been really asking for things that aren't required, because they're trying, you know, to do their due diligence.
how much did the water level change? You did the study earlier on the water level.
Yeah.
Upstream there. How much did it change after the county put their,
Oh.
dug that ditch in there? I mean,
I
that one
really,
had a bigger effect than the dam down here, because the water level was the highest up there in July, is what the study showed.
yeah, and I think what the county told us is, initially, now, I don't know if this is where they landed, because I don't have much communication with that department.
Yeah.
Initially, they said the water level wouldn't really change, but the flow would. The water will just go faster, and then, you know, they adjust the dam upstream, and that's really based on the rain and the water level in the Madison Lakes, because they have their own permits for that, and that's what controls how the adjustments are made up at Babcock and Tenny Park, Babcock Park, Kegonsa, and then ours. And ours is really, how far is it open? And typically, ours doesn't hold, you know, doesn't do much.
Yeah, yours faster.
Right, that's basically it, and then, you know, and then Dunkirk, which, you know, we don't anticipate any change with that one. It really is, we don't control anything, so it doesn't really serve a purpose. And even the features that I showed you, those features will hold back waters, and that's why they consider them dams by their definition, because it holds back or diverts water. Even though it doesn't smell or quack like a dam, they call it a dam because it does hold back water. So it wouldn't be like a free flow, but it'll be different. But at the end of the day, most of the water level is really controlled upstream, and that's based on precipitation, and we know it, rivers ebb and flows, right? So I don't know the answer to that question. That would be a Dane County question, and they haven't really communicated that to us if there's been any change. And that might be part of that next analysis, that once we get the downstream permits completed, then we have to go back and basically reaffirm the modeling that we did when we do that upstream permit, because what we're showing, it's gonna be fairly minimal upstream based on the modeling that we did. I don't know if that's changed or not.
Yeah, I was looking at, talking about the modeling, and that showed that in summer, in July, the water level north of B was the highest when the water flow was the least, because the vegetation choked the water and held it
Yeah.
back. It wasn't the dam, it was the vegetation.
Right, it's like when you fill up your bathtub and then you get in it, and the water level rises, it's the same concept.
Yeah, all the vegetation's holding it back, not the dam.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the county dug that out.
Yeah, they dug it out because during those extreme rains,
Yeah.
the isthmus got flooded, and it got flooded because of what you're describing, all that sediment and those weeds. The water wasn't getting to our dam, so Madison Mayor at the time was like, oh, Stoughton is causing the backup. Sorry, Paul, it wasn't us, because we had it wide open and the water wasn't getting to us. So that's, you know, we had it wide open and it wasn't coming to us at the capacity that we could handle. And he didn't like that. I met in his office,
Yeah.
you know, and then, you know, there's a new mayor in Madison, so. But yeah, we had that discussion, that wasn't a very fun day either. I mean, they had the water expert guy there, and he's like, I'd like to be able to tell you that's a problem, but it's not. And he explained to it, and he said, this is what we're gonna do, we're gonna dredge it, dig that channel deeper and wider so the water can flow faster and get to Stoughton. You know, and then we also locally had some issues because Dunkirk, they operate under the federal government, the FERC, they call it. So they don't have water level orders based by the DNR like we do because they're generating electricity down there. So we had some people locally in the floodplain, they had water in their backyards because they didn't open up their dam and lower the water level, so it got backed up. And I don't know, after a few days of that, all of a sudden it changed, so I don't know who called them and told them to open it up, but somebody at a higher level than me, and then it happened. So, you know, we're all trying to work together on this, and, you know, I mean, like yesterday, you never know when you're just gonna get a random rainfall. I was driving home on Page Street, and the water was up above the curbs. It came down so fast and hard, I couldn't even drain. I don't know if anybody else had any problems in their neighborhoods, but, you know, we're expecting to see more rains like that. And then potentially more drought, and then bang, you get hit. Instead of having them nice soaking rains, we're having these extremes, and, you know, we deal with them the best we can. We've done some things in our roads to help move water as well. So, any other questions? Thank you for your attention. It's always great to be here. Appreciate you coming and support me. Next month, we should have somebody from the school district, the chamber, and Stoughton Health here, and possibly the folks that are working on the comprehensive plan. And then after that, I'm trying to get the sheriff down here for a day. And then at some point, we'll have a new utilities director, so I'll get that person down here. And then also maybe our finance director, and then our clerk.
How about the DNR? Maybe we could all get it.
I don't think they want to come to Stoughton. No, we do have honest conversations with them, and we just look at things a little differently sometime, and I have the same thing with the Department of Transportation. You know, and that's just, when you're working intergovernmental, you all always have the same priorities. So we just do the best we can, and I'm sure they do as well. So we all want what's best for the areas that we represent. So I don't have any ill feelings toward them, and hopefully they don't toward me, although they might after the other day. So thanks again for being here.
Thank you.